Hello, everybody. Scott Golden, Life Coach, Golden Opportunities Coaching here, and we're going to talk today about toxic language patterns or thought patterns that can hinder your relationships. There's a good number of these, probably about somewhere between 9 and 11 of these we're going to go through today. If you're new here, please like, subscribe, comment below. If there's an audio we can do for you, please mention it, and we will get it done within usually a couple of days. We are trying to get a good level of content here so that you have a number of things that you can check out. Also, share this with your friends, family, and loved ones so that they can benefit as well. But we're going to go into our toxic phrases and word choices that people often do. The first is verbal body shaming. If you are the type of person who is constantly wondering, does this person have my best interest at heart? And they're constantly calling you fat or ugly, or they're calling you a bad dresser or with no style, or you never look good, or you always look bad, those type of qualifiers. This usually happens in primarily either two groups. Usually it's more likely to happen to females, although it does happen with men too. And usually it happens from a very dominant partner. It can, however, happen in teenagers with parents who have very strict dress code rules, that type of thing. Um, that can be problematic. If you're constantly dealing with verbal body shaming, this is a toxic situation and you need to get out of it. Because here's the thing, look, you may not be the perfect person body wise, but you're perfect for somebody. There's 7 billion people on the planet, and there's someone who's going to see you as beautiful, wonderful, and all that you are. And it's not to say that there aren't a group of people who will never see your attractiveness. That is part of human existence. And I talk about this in other audios, but if you haven't heard three tribes, we'll run through three tribes real quickly. With all qualifiers, three tribes. There are three tribes of people for every situation. There is a tribe that will not accept you no matter what you do. They are your enemies. They are not going to get you. They're not meant to get you. They're not willing to get you. So you don't need to defend yourself against them because it's not going to do any good anyway. Then you've got your what I call the middle ground. Those are the people you can convert. Those are the people that, hey, if you show me something, if you teach me something, if you're compassionate to me, if you have my best interest at heart, if I benefit from knowing you, you can convert me into a friend. And then you have your cheerleaders. These are the people that are in your corner no matter what you do, no matter how you do it, no matter how goofy you are, no matter how many mistakes you make, they're always there. Now, a lot of people choose to stay and surround themselves with group 3, and that's fine if you're looking for comfort or if you need to heal. But the best place to be and the best place to spend the majority of your time is in group 2 because you're expanding your social circle from that place. But anyway, a member of group 2 and a member of group 3 would never engage in any of these toxic phraseology behaviors, including but not limited to body shaming. The next, things like you're a freak, you're so different, you're so weird, you're so odd, you're so blank. And there's a qualifier of a negative there. So it's basically criticizing how you behave, your affect, how you come across to people, maybe your word choices. It's beyond physical, so it's not like how you dress, but instead it's behaviorally based. Now, a person who is trying to get you to be conformist. These are individuals who will try to get you to behave or think or act the way they do because they think there's strength in numbers, and often there is. But they take away your individuality. They don't support your ability to think outside the box. They don't support your ability to view the world from another perspective. These are people who really don't have your best interest at heart. If you're dealing with somebody who criticizes how you see the world on a consistent basis, and they're not joking. I mean, we can all tell satire, we can all tell sarcasm, but I'm talking about somebody who is critical, and more often than not, it's not from a humorous place. Time to run. The next is the people that criticize your emotional choices. Now, these are folks who take away your gamut of emotions, and they're doing so in a cutting down way or in a negative way. Their verbiage is something like, you're so immature, you're so selfish, you're so foolish, you're such a kid, you don't think clearly. And what they're criticizing is the way you interpret emotions. These are individuals who believe, and quite often have a narcissistic tendency, they believe that there is one way to think, one way to behave, one way to feel. And if you don't share their viewpoint or their worldview, they will immediately cut you down. These are people who might make fun of you if you laugh at a time that everyone else isn't laughing. Certainly, they're going to cut you down if you cry at a time they don't think is appropriate. They might, if you have a social cause that you care about, they may be critical of your social causes and these types of things. Um, Next is what I call the castaways. Now, these are people that'll say something like, "You're not in our group if you," or you'll never be with us. You'll never be one of us unless you." These are the individuals who use controlling behavior to get you to conform to their version of what right and wrong is. This can happen with parents who will use the term of, I'm gonna send you to your grandmother's if you don't clean your room right now," and it's not that simple, but something like, "I'm going to send you away unless you behave in the way that I think is appropriate. I'm not going to let you play my video game unless you know, mow the lawn so I don't have to." Whatever it is. So these are, unless you behave in a certain way, there's a consequence that takes you away from the person. It's what I call castaway. Most often it's followed with the silent treatment. So you're given the ultimatum, you're given the clear directive, you're given a very short, usually a couple of minutes to make the decision, and then the person goes immediately into the silent treatment to prove they're quote, quote, serious. That is a toxic behavior as well, and something to worry about. Now, another common toxic one that we see a lot of, especially in current Western civilization, is, because I think, and this will be a controversial statement, so comment below if you disagree with me, but for the most part, personal responsibility has been taught at an all-time low. There's a lot of weakness in people's willingness to take responsibility for their actions, their words, their deeds, the things they do, the things they don't do. And, there's situations where if you physically can't, if you really, truly, emotionally can't do something, if you mentally can't do something because you have an emotional disorder, that's one thing. But we're talking about people that take blame and just, they use it as a full-time job. They blame others, they blame their parents, they blame the choices they make, they blame other people, they blame past partners, they blame their boss, they blame the government. Blame game, folks. If you are dealing with a person who plays a blame game more than 50% of the time, run. This will not get better. This will not alter its course unless the person has a complete epiphany. And so trying to get them to see logic usually isn't going to work, because you are dealing with a person who does not want, has no desire to take personal responsibility. And here's one thing, and my clients that are listening to this, and there are many of you, you'll know what I'm going to say next. You can't teach desire. And that's the one thing, if I could trumpet one thing to the world that I've learned in 13 years of working with close to, at least 12,000, coming in on 13, almost 14,000 people now, all over the world, is that desire has to come from inside a person intrinsically. If a person doesn't have a desire to go to work, if a person doesn't have a desire to love you, if a person doesn't have a desire to get a job, if a person doesn't have a desire to parent, if a person doesn't have a desire to pay their bills, if a person doesn't have a desire to do whatever, fill in the blank here, you're not going to teach them to do that. That has to come from within them. Now, it can come later in life. It can come after a physical abnormality. It can come after a spiritual epiphany. It can come any number of ways. But you yourself will not teach a person to desire to be different. It has to come from within them. This comes down to another one of the major things, and that is demanding respect. Respect is earned, not given. And I remember saying that to my abusive parents very, very early. So, this does not mean that we should run around and disrespect individuals who we haven't met, right? Treat everyone with a certain modicum of decorum because they're human beings and we're all unified. And for the most part, there's good in almost every person. But at the same time, respect, which is the esteem of a person, is earned through watching their conduct and being able to say, hey, this person's trustworthy, this person's respectable, this person's honorable, this person has values that align with mine, this person is out to do the least amount of harm possible. If a person demands respect just because, um, I'm your boyfriend, you must respect me. I'm your baby daddy, baby mama, you must respect me. I'm your whatever, you must respect me. Society says you must respect me. Even going down to things like positions of authority, politicians, officers of public service. Yes, those positions are to be respected because they are positions of authority, but the people in them still follow the same rule. Their conduct should matter about whether you respect them or not. And if a person is acting with conduct that isn't respectable, giving them respect actually uh, undoes the whole social structure and ultimately leads to challenges. We can look at our political landscape here in the states, and I think worldwide, and see examples of people given respect because of their title who may not deserve it. And this happens with men and women, and this happens in any age group, any race, so it's not a qualifier thing. Respect is earned, not given, based on a person's conduct, and it should always be that way, whether they're personally connected to you or not. Threats. Using leverage of threats. I'm going to do this, I'm not going to do that. Threats are pretty simple. We all know what threats are. But if a person's using threats or manipulative language to get you to behave in a certain way, whether it be for monetary gain, whether it be for emotional gain, whether it be for I said monetary, but whether it be for security gain, gain of like a place to stay, whether it be for sexual gain, that's a common one too. But any person that uses threats on a continual basis, including but not limited to the threat of silent treatment or icing you out socially, is a person to avoid, and these are toxic words, toxic statements, and toxic ways of being. Criticism without merit. So, what that is a person who is critical of everything you do, but they don't have solutions on how you could do it better that makes sense. Now, criticism in itself can be a wonderful thing, right? We all need to learn, we all need to grow, we all can benefit from new perspectives, we all can benefit from different ways of believing, seeing, understanding different things. However, when a person can't back up their criticism, when they're criticizing you just because they can or because they believe they deserve the opportunity to, that's borderline abusive, and that is ultimately a toxic bit of words or string of language. Um, and then the last goes along with this. When they criticize your intelligence, emotional or mental, and there isn't an offer to help you improve, so it's like, hey, this was a stupid move, and here's why. That's fine, because we all make stupid mistakes. And some people don't like the word stupid, so insert a word you're comfortable with, but and always be mindful that if you have certain words that are triggers, if you have certain words that are uncomfortable for you, if they bring you back to a place mentally or emotionally where you don't want to go, obviously encourage people to use language that you're comfortable with. But it's fine if someone says you're not making wise decisions, but again, they should have solutions to your unwise decisions before they tell you that there's something wrong with the way you do things. So these are toxic phraseologies, toxic patterns of language and conduct that most often cause relationship difficulties. If you find you're dealing with one or more of these, please feel free to reach out, Scott Golden, and you can do that through Twitter at PO Perception, or you can do that here on YouTube through the YouTube inbox. Either way, get back to you within 24 to 48 hours, and keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Till next time, everybody.